Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now we are cycling through Legendborn. We are
You started me on that, so now I'm going with it.
And we are discussing the characters and themes of Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. Before heading into this is like our shortest season ever. It was 2 months, and the third book isn't out yet, guys. So have fun with this little break.
Yeah, we're not going to be back into this season for quite a while.
I know, 2025. So, Laura, before we get into the characters and themes of this particular book, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I watched a couple things. One was excellent and possibly one of my new all-time favorite movies. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Oh my gosh, isn't that amazing?
It's phenomenal. Yes. I had so many emotions watching it, and I was trying to think of a way to describe it to people, and I was like, oh, it's a story about mothers and daughters, but then I was like, it's not though. It's a story about relationships between a relationship between a husband and wife, a relationship of a person with herself and reconciling with the decisions she's made in her life and how she gains satisfaction in her life and how looking at different routes that she could have chosen would have changed her life, her relationship with her father, generational trauma. It's so complex, and the way that they tied all of these things together in this science fiction story is simply phenomenal. I cried so much throughout that movie, and I also loved many of the 2001 Space Odyssey themes that I was picking up on in there. I'm like, I just adored it. It was so good. It's on Netflix now, which is why I watched it. And I think you saw it in theaters.
It's amazing. I saw it in theaters because I very much wanted to see it so badly.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see it, and this is my first chance with it. It's on a streamer that I have.
I know. And it's so amazing just to watch this movie. It's such a weird, bizarre movie that has so many intertwining themes, like you said. It's amazing just how this film got created the way it did. Just having the people who were in it, playing, who they play, everything just felt perfect. It was so fun and weird, and I loved it so much.
I will say I think the movie deserves all the awards that it got, but I will say though, Jamie Lee Curtis, I thought she was going to play a bigger part in this than she did, and I was kind of like, really? She got Best Supporting Actress for this? I thought that she was going to be in this movie more, but I mean, she was good. I'm not complaining, but it was just
there was more. There was warranted criticism about Jamie Lee Curtis's win, about how it was just kind of it wasn't about the role, it was about who was
about the movie as a general.
Yeah. And there was a little bit of a discussion about Jamie Curtis versus Stephanie Sue, and why Jamie Lee Curtis got the nomination and the win. She is a white older woman who's a nepo baby in Hollywood, and
yeah.
And
but I also felt like that specific Oscars winning group that year was a lot of people who had previously been jilted in different roles, and it's Jamie Lee Curtis has acted in a lot of things and maybe had other roles that she was more deserving of an Oscar for, and I feel like that was kind of the situation for a lot of the actors who won that year, where it was they'd had all these other phenomenal roles and really hadn't gotten their flowers for them,
which is the Brendan Fraser one.
I've for the Whale.
I've never seen it, but I've also heard obviously
not his best role.
Not his best role, and a movie that I heard wasn't that good.
I have also heard that. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment, with my own opinion of it. But I have also heard that exact same thing where people are like, really? This is the one that he's getting the Oscar for? But I think you're absolutely right that choices were made to specifically target actors who maybe hadn't gotten the accolades that they should have previously.
I will say it is very unique that Jamie Lee Curtis got it at her age, because there's also a little bit of a stereotype that it's often older men. Men are older when they get their
women
Oscar,
once they hit 35 don't usually get.
And so Oscars. I do think that that's good. Hey, we should give it to older women. You don't need to give it to a 23-year-old ingenue every single time. Why is that
Well,
stereotypically
and
like what happens?
that's not to say that young women
No,
don't deserve awards. It's just that it seems
aging
to be that
women seem to be
aged women are
overlooked.
exempt from
Yes.
awards.
And like younger men are more likely to hear the like, well, you're not going to get it right now, but wait until
Mhm.
later in life
You
when
got to
like,
develop some
hmm
experience.
but like for some reason we want to give it to young women and not older women,
Hmm.
but we don't want to give it to young men, but we want to give
Hmm.
it to older men. So it just it's a failing on all parts, and it's an
Right.
award, which like awards are silly little things that are like
Hmm.
not
I will say
perfect.
that, you know, the recognition for a lot of the work that goes into film and media is definitely deserved for
Hmm.
a lot of things, but I do think that assigning who wins awards and the process, like you're saying, is definitely flawed.
Right. Exactly. So,
But
and
again, I
what a
don't know a
good
better way to
movie.
do things, so
No, I yeah.
don't at me. But I don't have any suggestions.
I
But
know. I
but
could
yeah,
only do what I could do, which is talk
there
about it a little bit.
yeah. But that movie was so good. I found myself emotional through many parts of it. Like,
Oh
you know, like
yeah.
having complicated relationships with your parents, and you know, like watching somebody who is struggling in a position that they never really thought they were going to end up in,
Hmm.
and questioning their life path and
Hmm.
how they got there, and just seeing her kind of come into her own and recognize how worthy and amazing she was in that specific
Hmm.
universe was uh just so emotional for me to watch.
What a
But
good
Hannah, the
movie.
other thing I watched with Love is Blind
Oh my
season 6.
gosh.
I haven't watched all the episodes because, not gonna lie, I fell asleep watching some of them. But these people, I am baffled. Like, I'm probably not the target audience for this show because I'm the world's biggest cynic, I guess, where I'm watching this and I'm like, really, your greatest accomplishment in life is finding this person? You've known each other for 2 days. That's
But
your greatest
also
accomplishment in life. You've never seen her.
but also like they just I don't know. I think that that show I've just
I
been hearing more and more stuff that I'm like it
it's
just feels
heavily
unethical. Like
it is. It's
yes.
heavily manipulated by the producers. And
Yeah.
I think you can kind of tell that a lot in this season, especially where you have different people who are participating in the show saying things to other people like, oh, you don't want to go for him. I know some things that you don't know. And it's like, how would you know some things? How would you know these
Yeah.
things? And the only thing I can think of is that the producers are feeding them info
Right.
about what's going on, and they're kind of trying to stir up some drama because that's what makes the show interesting, is if there's some
Right.
drama. And then they also manipulate the footage a little too. And there's like a person on the show who they have made the footage seem as if they go into the pods and the woman is talking and it looks like he
Oh
gets
yeah, the
up
guy he gets up
while
and
she's speaking
leaves.
and leaves. Well, you ask that people have asked the woman, they're like, did this happen? And she's like, that never happened. We're totally okay. Like, I don't have issues with him.
Right.
So that's, to me, they have manipulated the footage to make it seem like that, so that me
Yes.
watching it at home, I'm like, oh my gosh, how rude.
Mm-hmm.
But this season it is wild. It is wild. And I always like, again, I'm very much cynical because the people that are knowing someone for just a couple days and saying like, my greatest accomplishment in life is finding you. Like,
No,
you've
it's
never seen
not.
each other. Like, you are an engineer, sir.
Yeah,
Like,
like
you are very accomplished, or like, you are a principal at a high school. You have a lot going on for yourself. Like, at 25, you're a principal, and this is your biggest accomplishment. Like, are you
right.
sure?
Like
Are
you're
you for
lying.
sure?
That's not true.
And
Yeah,
some of the stuff that they say to each other, some of the people are repeating the same things to multiple people and getting caught
right.
in it. And it's like, okay, you're not, to me, a lot of the people joining the show now are in it for the notoriety.
Yes, I
That
would agree with that.
we are past the point where people are actually interested in the quote unquote experiment
Right.
of whether or not they
Can find
can fall in
love.
love with someone
Where
without
they've
being
never met.
attracted to them physically. We are
Right.
totally beyond that point because most people are coming into this show thinking I can become internet famous and I can just get a bunch of brand ads and not have to work for the rest of my life, because there's been a lot of people who have been in previous seasons that had successful careers
Mm-hmm.
that they were able to abandon because they made so much more
Yes.
doing brand deals on Instagram or whatever. And great for them. But at the same time, that's not the point of this show. And I think I shouldn't say everyone's starting. I think most people watching this know that these relationships are not built to last, that
Right.
a lot of them do not make it past these getaways that they're on or make it to the altar because they either don't have the connection that they claim to have or thought they had,
Right.
or they're just in this for the wrong reasons. So
Yeah.
it's
It's interesting.
it is an interesting show. Like I kind of prefer this show to The Bachelor, in all honesty. Like The Bachelor I've never been able to get as into, and I
Yeah.
think for me it's just like the pettiness of The Bachelor is a higher level because you have people competing for the affections of one person,
Right.
and that is not great because it becomes very petty very quickly.
It's so funny because like I follow a couple, I don't follow them, but I watch a couple TikTokers who make jokes about like the girl who wants your man or whatever. And a lot of them
Mhm.
feel like they're just bad bachelor skits. Like at one point he's with someone and she's like, do you think I should go say something? And it's like, but why not? I really need to. And I'm like, yeah, that happens on The Bachelor all the time
Yeah.
where people will be like,
Hmm.
I just have to go tell him something. Like we're supposed to be together. And it's like, there are
Mind
so
if I
many
cut in
people.
for a minute? Just
Yeah.
wanted to just say something really quick.
She's just been
Sure.
stealing you all night.
Let me
Like,
just steal you away for a little bit.
yeah, exactly.
And then it's I'm so glad we got this time together. We hardly ever get to talk, but I just
Right.
wanted to say that we have like a really special connection. I'm just thrilled
I'm
that we're
just
able
really
to
vibing with you.
get to
And
have this time, and
yeah,
it's just really beautiful that we have this experience, and I feel really connected to you. And I'm like,
exactly.
I'm sorry, but you don't have.
You don't.
You've barely been around each other. Like, no, no.
Yeah.
So, and I just feel like in what I have seen of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, that it really just seems to be they're very much playing into the drama of how can we get these people to get mad at each other, and who
Right.
can we make into a villain that is
Yeah,
going to
that's
be
definitely
picking on the other
happening.
people at the house, and that I don't enjoy as much, but and that's maybe why I lean more into the Love is Blind
Right.
situation, but it is definitely not a not a great show in terms of like how they're treating the people involved and how they manipulate people. And also just I think that a lot of the things that I hear from some of these people, they're young people, and like a lot of them are 24, 25,
Right.
and the things that they are saying, I'm like, you have very low self-esteem,
Mm-hmm.
or you just need to be in therapy. Like I'm sorry, that should not be the expect that should not be you setting like a high expectation. That's not a good expectation to set for a partner. Like,
Well, and
oh,
I'm sorry, like this show has to work through the lens of people who do care about
mhm.
personal looks. Like that's
Yep,
the thing is if it was someone who doesn't necessarily care about looks, they wouldn't be an effective cast member
yep.
because then it's like what is the drama of it all? Because the
Hmm.
drama is, oh my God, I fell in love with that person and I don't think they look like I thought they would look. And that's not
Well, and
the same thing.
the thing
Like,
is, like, I have yet to see a single person on this show that I'm like, ooh, very unattractive. Like they will have maybe each season one person that they kind of try to portray as like, this one's the unattractive guy. And it's like, he's still attractive. I'm sorry. Like,
or at least someone who's like I'm and not
They
to put it
they
at
don't
this,
have.
but like it's all fit people who care about looks. Like it's all fit people who care about looks, who think that they're incredibly attractive, but when you push them up against someone who also is vapid, they might be left wanting.
Mhm.
Like that's how this show works. It has to be people who care about that stuff. And then everyone's like, "Oh my God, they're so ugly." And it's like, yes, they are probably not as aesthetically pleasing as their feelings about
Mhm.
looks are, but there's still a straight size, like pretty fit person
Yeah.
who
There's not been a single person on this show where I'm like, oh, they're overweight. Like
no.
none of
And
them
this
are
and that's also
bigger
not to say
bodied
that
people. Like,
overweight people are not attractive, because
no,
overweight
that I'm
people
not
are
saying that at
incredibly
all.
attractive. I didn't want the implication for us
I'm
to
just
be
going
like,
by
no,
like,
no, no. But I didn't want us, because we were like, oh, we haven't seen anyone ugly. And I'm like, okay, and they're also all straight size. Two different independent thoughts.
yes.
Like,
Yeah.
ugliness does not carry like with it like fatness or anything like
I
that.
know a lot of really ugly people who are skinny.
Yeah, but it's more like again, it has to be people who are fit, because then they care about their appearance. And like that's also
Yes.
not to say fat people don't care about their appearance, but they care about what the person they're with looks like in
Yeah.
a way that's like specifically like,
Playing into societal
yes,
pressure.
norms.
Hmm.
So yeah,
I
it's a
I think
it,
it's something where it's like
it's
they're not ever going to make this a show where they're actually testing
mhm,
this experiment. They never have people on this show who have like skin differences. Like
mhm,
I am an acne sufferer.
right.
I have gone through periods of my life where I have had horrendous acne.
Hmm.
They will never have someone on this show who has bad acne. They will never have somebody on this show who has bad hair. Like
Right.
there's nothing like that that's going to be happening on this show. Like they are only going to cast traditionally attractive,
Hmm.
conventionally attractive people.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Like they're going to go off of like societal norms. And I will say there are a couple of people on this show that they did get engaged this season, and they're kind of like praising themselves about how, wow, we don't care what our partner looks like. Isn't that so amazing that we actually won this experiment? We don't care. They are some of the most attractive people I've ever seen. Like the woman
Pat myself on the back for this hot
the
pizza.
woman is a professional
Oh
cheerleader
my
for
God.
like a sports team, and she has an amazing body and a beautiful face. Like she's gorgeous. And the way that her fiance now is always just saying all the time, like, I'm so glad that I passed this experiment and that I don't actually care about looks. I'm so glad that I can look past her looks and that I care about her soul and everything. And I'm like, you don't care about just her soul, because about 30 seconds into knowing her, seeing her, you said, get up and spin. I want to see all of you. And I'm like, okay,
Ew.
yeah, you don't get past the
Ew.
experiment. You clearly care and you're thrilled.
Yeah,
And
no, no,
you know
thank
what? And
you.
then you have an amazing face and body as well. So she's doing great
Yeah,
too. But it's
congrats to you too.
like,
Yeah.
oh wow, you guys realize love is not blind because you actually ended up with a super
Hot
attractive
person.
person. Like, all right,
But like,
cool.
I don't, yeah, that show just has so many red flags in it. Yeah. So,
And there are some things like some of the people are I've seen people online having a fit about like this one girl because a lot of them they don't
oh,
ask what the
the
people look like.
stupid,
The
like,
Megan Fox thing.
yeah, yeah.
First of all, I think she is
There's
totally fair
okay.
in saying that people tell her she looks like Megan Fox. I don't think
Also,
I find an issue with
I'm
it because she does have a lot of facial similarities.
yeah, but like also it's one of those things where a people get told they look like celebrities all the time, that it's like, oh my
It's
God, do
all
you know who you're
perception.
it's all perception. And be like, of course, when you're looking at a painfully lit reality TV show, you're not going to think she looks like Megan Fox.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in everyday occurrences, maybe you would. But like it's so it is weird to
And
tell
she
someone
does
on
have a
this
lot of
show.
facial similarities. But the thing is, she's definitely was the way that they showed this whole scene of her saying that, they definitely either manipulated that cut to make
Mm-hmm.
it seem like this. But it seems like when you're watching the show that she's almost kind of baiting him a little bit
Right.
with it, where she's like, I look like, oh, what's her name from Transformers? And the guy is thrilled. He's like, Megan Fox? And everyone, every guy that loves Megan Fox, or every person that loves Megan Fox, not just guys,
No.
every person that is attracted to Megan Fox is like picturing Transformers, her bending over a car, doing all
Right.
of her hard mechanic work that she knows. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to burst through this pod wall now. And
Right.
it's, and that's what it seemed like. The way that they manipulated the footage, it made it seem like she was kind of baiting him almost like,
Right.
you know what? I look like Megan Fox. And so then it's like, oh, well, he's sold on that.
Right.
But yeah, I see people complaining about that. And I'm like, you know what? People tell me I look like different celebrities all the time. Like I get it all the time, literally. And do I think I look like any of them really? No, not at
No.
all. But what do I have in common with these people? Like similar build, maybe, and the same color hair,
Yes,
like similar
exactly.
haircut. And it's like, okay, I get it. If you like you say all the time when you're talking about different celebrities, like, I can't tell these two apart because they look exactly the same to me. And I think that's what it is for people where they
Right.
see someone of a similar build and hairstyle cut or color,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, you look exactly like her. And it's
Right.
like, no, no. And that's what, like, this woman, she has a similar hair color and
Mm-hmm.
light blue eyes and some similar facial features where
Exactly.
I'm like, yes, I can totally see people saying that. But the way that people are like blowing up about it, it's like, it's not her fault necessarily. It's the way that they manipulated this footage to make it seem like she was baiting him.
And also,
So
like, that guy looks like he sucks. Like, that guy
that
looks
guy
like he
does suck.
sucks. He looks awful. I don't give a crap. Like,
I will say I was disappointed that those two ended up together because the other guy that she was kind of seeing, they had a lot more chemistry and he seemed a
mm,
lot nicer. And I think she maybe got caught up in the we're in a love triangle thing because there was
mm,
another woman that he was also talking to. And
yeah,
I think a lot of times I'm noticing on this that people want to be the one that's chosen,
yes,
even if they had another option of somebody who only wanted them.
right.
They would rather be chosen, be the first choice of somebody else and have quote unquote competition that they could win
So
against.
stupid.
It is. It really is. But I think that's kind of like subconsciously what's happening in some of these people's minds. Because when she was proposed to, the guy that proposed to her first, she went with him. And the guy that she went to afterwards, he said to her, so you're telling me you just got engaged to him? And she was like, yeah. And he said, but he couldn't decide between you and another girl up until this other girl turned him down. And then you were the only option. He proposed to you. And she said, yeah. And he said, but this entire time, I've only been interested in you
God.
and been pursuing you. And she said, yeah, I know this is so difficult. I didn't want to hurt you. And he says, if I would have proposed to you first, what would have happened? And she didn't really have an answer. And I
Yeah,
think it's because she probably, if he would have got there first, she
right.
might have said yes to him. And I really just think a lot of these people need therapy.
Well, yes. I mean, there
I
it's not again, it's who's getting chosen for these things. Who's
they're
like
they're
it's
picking specific
self-selection.
people. They're
Yeah.
picking specific people and they're trying to make a lot of drama. They're trying to pick and choose who ends up in what pod together and kind of play
Mm-hmm.
it. Like it's very much heavily produced.
Yes.
But it's I have just like so many thoughts about it. And I honestly feel a lot of sympathy for the people that are involved in this because I think a lot of them do seem like they want love.
Right.
And I feel bad that they're going into this type of scenario in order to find a partnership because it's such a bad way to do it.
Well, like it's becoming more and more known that like they ply them with alcohol, like that's
Mm-hmm.
not a
Oh yeah, they're totally
secret.
drunk.
They're drunk all the time because like the one guy who left the room, he like admitted to like people out because NDA's never heard of them, but he's like, yeah, I don't drink. And so it was incredibly not a rewarding experience for me who doesn't drink to
Mm-hmm.
like um have all of these people like
Like
drunk and
a bunch of
chatting
drunk
with
women that
me.
you're supposed to be like making a
Right.
deep connection with. Like,
Yeah, like you're not gonna do that. And it just doesn't, yeah, it doesn't always make sense. So I don't know. I'm
this
never gonna watch the show probably, but it's
the
always
show has a
interesting to
ton of
hear.
flaws, and I really wish that there were better ways for people who need companionship, whether it's friends or
Hmm.
partners, a better way for them to find people, because I do worry about about a lot of people, that are lonely, because that's such a difficult thing to go through,
Yeah.
is loneliness. And I sincerely hope that there are more and more ways for people to find people and have people in their lives, because this is not the way to be going about it. Like,
No,
exploiting people on television is a
no.
terrible way to find love. Hannah, what have you been reading and
Well,
watching
you
and or
didn't
enjoying?
say anything you were reading, so I'm just going to assume that it's been a slow week for Laura.
I haven't finished anything, and I don't know
Okay.
why I always feel like I need to finish it in order to give
You
complete
don't have
thoughts.
to.
I
Like
know, but you've
you
done the
could
same
just
thing
be
where you've
like,
said I
I
haven't
know.
finished anything, and I'm kind of like the same boat where I'm like, I haven't finished it yet, so I could
So I'm not
completely
going to tell you
change my
anything about
mind.
it.
I completely changed my mind on it.
Can you at least tell me what you're reading right
Okay, so
now?
I'll tell you one thing that I'm reading right now, and
Okay.
it's because I'm a little nervous about it, but
Okay.
I was wanting to read something similar to Earthlings by Sayaka
Yeah.
Murata, because I I honestly can't stop thinking about her books. Like, they
Yeah.
just kind of have haunted me. And
Right.
I just Googled like books similar to Sayaka Murata's Earthlings. And the very first thing that popped up was Tender as the Flesh.
Oh,
And
I want to read that one.
this
Is
is
it
a very
good?
popular book.
Yeah.
It's short. I'm like halfway through. I think there's a lot of things that are happening in this book that are interesting commentaries on like society and class.
Yeah.
I kind of wish the author would have pushed it a little more, but
Mm.
I'm I'm at a point where I've heard things about this book and I'm getting nervous
Oh
because I'm
no.
like, when do some of these things happen? Because I'm kind of scared. Like,
Yeah.
somebody on Goodreads had posted, "Well, I just threw up," and
Oh,
so I'm a little nervous because apparently it's a very shocking book towards the end,
yes.
and I'm again only halfway. So, like I said, I didn't want to like throw out an opinion, but so far I think definitely interesting commentary on like where the author sees things going in terms of like society, and if there were certain scenarios that would happen in the world,
Right.
and how quickly people would be willing to throw away morals basically in
That's
order
fair.
to have certain
Yeah.
foods. And so I think there's a lot to be said with that. And again, I almost wanted to see that pushed a little more, where they're like, oh,
Yeah.
well, there's a reason that these are the people that were subjected to these things first. Like, did we think about that
Right.
because they're poor or because they're people of color? That there's no coincidence that the poor people
Mm.
were the first ones that got involved into this in a bad way.
Right.
But yeah, again, I'm nervous. I'm nervous
Can't wait
because
to hear your final thoughts
uh,
when you actually read it and feel comfortable sharing it on the podcast.
I I I don't know. And it's one of those things that now I like to read before bed. But I've been nervous to read it before bed too, because I'm like, am I gonna be scared? Like, please do not scare me. I don't want to puke.
So funny.
So yeah, Tender is the Flesh. I will update you. Okay, Hannah.
Okay.
Now you're up.
So I finished Whalefall by Daniel Kraus. Uh
Okay.
this is a really good book. It's about a teenage boy who he goes out searching for his father's remains in the ocean and he gets swallowed by a whale.
Oh,
And it's an accurate, like a scientifically accurate kind of discussion on if you could survive being swallowed by a whale and how you might survive that.
how your body would break
Um,
down, etc.
yeah, like because like the whale apparently has like four different stomachs. So like in certain stomachs you're safer, but you can't like move further down. Like you have to be very aware.
What kind of whale is it?
It's a sperm whale.
Sperm whale.
And so and like the person who wrote it like spoke to your favorite Mary Roach
Hmm.
kind of about like, oh hey, what's been talked about, and there have been people who said they were swallowed by a whale and that's never been proven. But he was just interested in writing a book like that, and it was really
Hmm.
good. I enjoyed it a lot. I know I have a friend who listened to it via audiobook and they very much enjoyed it via audio, but I read it and I thought it was just really well done. Like you have the person's like PSI levels for like their air while they're in the whale,
Hmm.
and it's like going towards zero the entire time. So it's just interesting
Hmm.
to read all about that. Um, and just like how he survives, it was just very fascinating. So I thought it was
I'm
really
I'm
good.
assuming that whales have like a compartmentalized stomach similar to ruminants, like
Hmm.
cattle and goats. So I know that they can break down starches a lot
Yes.
easier than we can.
And so, yeah, there's a lot of stuff about that and like how it works. So it's very
Hmm.
interesting to read.
I would probably really
And
like that.
I know I was like, this is definitely a Laura book. I
Hmm.
feel like you will really vibe with it. So,
I also am just
uh,
one of those people though where when I read something like that, then I'm like, but what if this happened? So, and it's like this is fictional, Laura. You don't get that involved.
it'll be fine. But it was written by someone who like he's a screenwriter, so it worked
Cool.
really well. So I read that, and I also read Viviana Valentine and the Ticking Clock, a
Okay,
Girl
did you do
Friday
the audiobook?
mystery. No, I actually read this one because I had it from NetGalley and I just hadn't read it
Yeah.
yet. But I
I have
we
the
love
NetGalley
these
version
books.
too, but I
They're
kind of want to get the audiobook because they're so good.
I love the audiobooks, but I didn't have the audiobook to it, but I did read this one, and this was my favorite of the Viviana Valentine
Oh,
series.
really? Okay.
Yeah, I just thought like this one was so great. It had a good mixture of like lighthearted mysteries and just
Hmm.
like a little bit of zaniness. And there were just lines that had me cackling and
Oh,
laughing. And I
good.
just enjoyed my time with it. And I liked like, I don't know, Viviana, like thinking about things like engagements and, what that means for her. And it's a good like peek into history because they kind of talk a little bit
Hmm.
about different wars that are going on in the 50s and
Hmm.
like how housing is changing in New York City during that time. And I just thought it was like really well done, like screenshot of the 50s and little parts that you never see.
Sure.
While also like having just some like multiple mysteries in the same book. It was
Cool.
just fun to watch them just do kind of like gumshoe PI stuff. Like I feel like the other two had bigger mysteries
Yeah, it
going
was like
on.
one overarching
Hmm.
mystery.
And this
This
one had
one's like
like
layered.
three layered ones. And I was like,
Cool.
great, this was fun. Like, so I had a great time. I thought it was super good and highly recommend.
That's
And
awesome.
so yeah, Emily J. Edwards, everyone go buy her books.
Friend of
she
the pod.
is a friend of the pod, so make sure you're supporting her. And yeah, so I did that, and then I started my continued watch with Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Mm.
And I always enjoy those, but boy, do some things just not age well. Every time I watch it, I'm like, wow,
I've
Xander's
never
the
watched
literal
Buffy.
worst. I really like it's fun because like I obviously was a huge uh purveyor of uh mid or early 2000 like witch or fantasy shows that were all like
Hmm.
modern, more urban fantasy stuff. So I was like huge into Charmed, and I did watch
Hmm.
Angel. And I watched like all those types of shows like Dark Angel and Dollhouse and stuff like that. And so I'd never seen Buffy just because we didn't have WB by the time it wasn't running for like years and seasons, and I couldn't catch up. Um, but yeah, it's fun to watch. It's like I enjoy watching 23 episode fantasies because like some episodes you're just like, what's going on? And it's like nothing much.
Yeah.
Like, so that's fun, but it's a good background show. Like I cleaned two of the
Hmm.
rooms in my house while I was watching it. And I was like, you don't mind if you're missing something, but it's
Right.
kind of nice to have those because I feel like
Hmm.
nowadays every single second of television has to count. And
Yeah.
that can sometimes be draining when you just want to watch a background show and clean
Yeah.
your house while you're watching it, even though you've never
That's
seen
why I
it
rewatch
before.
things so much because I like to
Right.
have the noise in the background. And if I don't have an audiobook that I'm vibing with, like I have TV going almost all the time that I'll just put
Yeah.
on Parks and Rec and it's in the background.
And so I really liked that. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything new that I've been watching lately, except for Abbott Elementary. I'm all caught up with that. What a
Oh
good
yeah.
show. I just love that show so much. It's so hilarious. Um, but yeah, so shall we dive into the characters and
Let's do
themes
it.
of this book? Um, it's so sad because I'm like, well, the biggest theme is racism.
Yeah.
Like, what a bummer to talk about.
But necessary. I mean,
Necessary,
I
yes.
I think that there's kind of a shift in the way that we see things in Legendborn versus in Bloodmarked because
Yes.
there was some overt racism in
Yes.
Legendborn, but in this book, there's tons of overt racism. And we are
Yes.
seeing a lot of people who have been dealing with the racist things related, the racist things that people have done through this. I can't remember what this group is called.
The Legend Born?
The Legendborn that the
Yeah.
Legendborn group have the Legion that
The Legion, yeah.
that they
That's
have been doing for years and years and years and years and years and years and years, and the way that they have really just kept so many people down and out of these things. And you see a lot more of that in this book. And it's interesting to see like Valak in this and
Mhm.
how he was brought in and the way that he plays into this story. And it's interesting when we are introduced to more of the characters and in his bar
Mhm.
behind the scenes and we
Yeah.
see our friend from the first book and her aunt
Mariah just
Mariah, like,
pops up and is like,
okay,
what
just
are you doing
and
here?
how they all go to gosh, I'm just not remembering places in this book. I'm thinking too much about Tender as a Flush. But where was the place that they went to, Hannah, that was owned by all of the people that used Root
Oh my
and the
gosh.
Root users?
Why would you do this to me, Laura?
Usually
I'm
I'm fairly good
terrible
at
at
remembering, but
names. I know.
I'm told you before we started recording that for whatever reason, this book it's like in one ear and out the other. Like things happen so fast that I have trouble remembering who's who and where is what. So
Right. I know. I know that it's called like Welcome to, and it's someplace very safe,
basically,
but
it was a former plantation that
yes.
they reclaimed for for themselves, and they are using that land to be a place of healing and preserving their own culture and community and not diminishing the experiences of the people.
Volition. Sorry,
Volition.
volition. Yeah.
Thank you. Diminishing the experience of the people who have gone through terrible things through that area. Am I right?
Yes. And
But I think
yeah.
it was very interesting how all of these things were brought in this book, and it just seemed a lot deeper
Hmm.
the way that racism was addressed in this book compared to the first book.
It was much deeper, and I think that there's just such strong, powerful themes, especially about Bree's body as a Black woman.
Yes.
There's so much in here about the use of the like Black female body and how it gets like dehumanized at every
Mhm.
encounter and how it is something to be used. And that started in the former book where we find out about why Bree has the power of Arthur and
Mhm.
how her
How she came to
ancestry.
be the
Yes.
Scion of Arthur.
And like she has to fight and remind people that it was born out of violence and she gets blamed for that violence in so many
And told she's
areas.
not deserving
Yes.
of her title as Scion.
when like no
Whereas
other
how are the
person would
other
have
people
been. Yeah.
deserving?
Yeah, that's the thing is like everyone is deserving until it goes to someone who quote unquote doesn't look like you, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden they're not deserving because you're deserving and you
Right.
have to be deserving. And so I just think that this book did such a wonderful and deep look at that, especially when it comes to like them keeping her in control, them keeping her drugged, and thinking they have a right to do that out of some type of perverse protection. It's so
Hmm.
well done. And
Yes.
like this is where you and I push for things like, no, these types of books need to be read in high schools because you
Hmm.
need to be able to identify these things and do a deep dive into what it means, and to look at like even the fact that Arthur, when he is controlling Bree's body, again through a violation,
Yes.
uh, he is a little bit like it never occurs to him that the people still may dehumanize him just because of the
Hmm.
body he's
The
in.
way
He's
that
like,
he
I
looks.
am Arthur, so I should be here at the forefront. And they're like, no, you still don't deserve it. Even if you're
Hmm.
literally the person you're supposed to be, we can't trust you
Right.
because of the body you're in. And I think that that's such that's it's an honest portrayal of what could
Hmm.
happen in
And
in this.
how people don't understand
Hmm.
that the way that you are treated as a person of color is different. You can act exactly the same
Hmm.
as you would, but your privilege as a white person takes you so far, and you
Yep.
have so many more advantages in terms of what you can say to people and what you can do
Yep.
that you don't realize until
Hmm.
you are then in that situation like Arthur was and is like, oh, well, wait, what?
Yeah, like
So
how am I not in control? I'm the person.
are you
Like,
kidding me?
right.
I'm the king. What?
Yeah.
But yeah, extremely well done. And I think on
Hmm.
like more of a surface level, there's a lot of talk to be said had about like consent in
Yes.
general, because even the people that care about Brie are doing things without her consent, such as
Yes.
Cell making decisions
Ugh.
that he thinks are helping, or doing things without telling her, and these things affecting her deeply, really.
Hmm.
Like they now have, in my mind, well, they seem to make up quickly, but they have kind of a fractured relationship
Yeah.
after he has been mesmering her to think that he looks a certain way, manipulating her.
Right.
And I I think of this as a non-consensual thing because
Yeah.
he is taking from her own power, was he not? If I'm remembering right.
I don't, I'm not
Wasn't
sure.
wasn't he, because I thought he was getting weaker, and
He was
so
getting
wasn't he
weaker,
like
but I don't know if
taking
he was
from,
using her power, but it was something where like in order to mesmer her with his like limited use, he had to touch her and he had
yeah,
to interact with her body to the point where
maybe
like
that's why I'm like
it
thinking that.
also felt like a violation to her where she's like,
Hmm.
well, in these moments where he was touching me, was he just trying to, affect my thoughts and
Did he
infect what I
actually care
saw?
about me,
Right.
or was it just a further manipulation? And
Exactly.
and so I think there's a lot to be said in those terms of like even the people that Brie cares about are doing things that she's not consenting to because they
Hmm.
seem to know better,
Yes.
quote unquote.
Yeah. And it's such a weird line because Brie cares so much about other people and she
Mhm.
keeps believing them. Like anytime someone tells her something, she just automatically believes it.
She's
And
incredibly forgiving.
yes. And that's also something that I think can lead back to race where it's like, well,
Yes.
you have to forgive your friends for their
She's
misgivings because
expected
like,
to.
yes. And if you can't, that's your fault. And it
Mhm.
does feel like she gets that pushed on her quite a bit. And there are moments that I enjoyed like Volition where it's like, no, you have to stay in a house different from your friends because of who you are.
Mhm.
And that's to be celebrated, not to be
Mhm.
hidden. And I really appreciated that in this book because
Yes.
I think it's a unique look that like a lot of quote unquote well-meaning white people would be like, well, that's
Mhm.
unfair. And it's like, why is it unfair? Like,
It's not
you
unfair.
need to decentralize your own story in this role. And like, it's not about you. And it's okay if people have different appreciations and different
Hmm.
rules that you may not understand, because
Hmm.
life is not meant for you to understand every little piece or for
Right.
you to agree with every little piece. It's meant to be lived and respected. So, I do appreciate that they have these moments that kind of question and check people's privileges and thought
Hmm.
processes.
Can I go back to something you mentioned though about like
Hmm.
how the other people expect Bree to do certain things? The way that the other people, like her friends,
Hmm.
sell, and Alice not as much. Alice is like
No.
the only person that seems to be very accepting of
Yes.
everything regarding Bree and like the most supportive by far, even more so than her dad because her dad doesn't have a clue, it seems like.
Well, her
Like,
dad just thinks she's
he's a
like not
teenager
speaking to her for
off doing
months.
who knows what, and it's totally okay. Whatever. But yeah, the way that I'm thinking, especially Cell and Nick talk to Bree and kind of try to make it seem like she's the one that should feel bad about certain situations, or she should consider the things that she's putting other people through,
Hmm.
or that she needs to think about how the decisions that she makes affect everyone and how you're putting everyone in danger and all this. And it's like, but the two of you do so many dangerous things
Right.
and you're never going to apologize, but you expect her to totally apologize. And it's baffling to me.
I don't understand. Like, obviously, this book is different because it is a chosen one storyline.
Mhm.
It is, but this book is so unique in how much Brie gets dunked on for
Yeah.
wanting to be an active participant in her own life. Like
She's
the
trying
amount of
so
times
hard.
she's like, "Can you guys just teach me? Can you guys just do this?" And people are just screaming at her that she is an ungrateful person who
Mhm.
needs to sit and be protected. And it's mind-boggling that like they're all like, "Oh yes, you have all these powers, you have all these things, but like don't use them and you're selfish if you want to." And like
And nobody can seem to like I get it that there are a lot of different moving parts in terms of like how Bree's powers work.
right,
When we learn more about that in this book because she does have like a demon who has marked her.
right.
And so she's able to like access that power because of a promise that was made with one of her ancestors, Vera.
Hmm.
And I I do think that even though there's a lot of moving parts there, the fact that almost everyone, like when she tries to, like you said, go for answers about her powers or like what she can do, she's constantly told like, no, you're wrong, that's not the way we should do
Right.
it. Like even Patricia like being like, it's root, it's never anything else. And then other
I
people
already have a therapist.
oh my gosh, no you don't.
You don't.
Don't.
Oh
Oh,
God.
but yeah, like Patricia saying that is an example in my mind of like even people within a community that she feels comfortable with and feels supported in are still kind of like telling, no, you're wrong. That no, that's not it. And it's like, okay, why is it that none of these characters, I think that that's maybe something to be said of like how she belongs in so many different circles. She's not
Mm,
just a pigeonholed person. She's very much multifaceted, and there's so many things to her as a person and to her ancestry that it speaks volumes as to her as a character. Like she's a great character, she's a great person, and all these things, but she's not just one thing. She's all
right.
these different things, and we
Hmm.
can't. Not one group can explain her because she's all of these different things. But it
Hmm.
is frustrating when you're reading it to like hear other people like say to this teenager who is doing her best and trying so hard to literally like save the world, save the cheerleader, save the world.
Right. Oh, what a great show that turned into a not
Oh
great
my
show.
gosh, I used to love that show.
I used to love that show so
It's
much.
great. Oh, TV's
Aw.
Tuesday. But yeah, I it's really frustrating to read about Bree trying to learn more and literally save the world, and people just
Mm-hmm.
be like, nope, you're doing it wrong. That's not, you need to apologize because that is not the way to do it. Like, we hate that you suggested that even. Nope. It's like, okay.
And they like infantilize her in such a
Yes.
specific way of like it's just gross.
Because they're
And
like, you're 16, you have no clue how to do this. We're 17, so
so
we're
I am
experienced.
17 going on 18.
I know everything. Clearly, yeah.
Boys
I know
will be
17-year-olds in the
great.
Midwest know everything because when it was -20 here, they were outside without coats on, and that was a smart decision. So,
Oh,
yeah.
Laura.
I'm always cold. So
I'm always cold.
I was baffled when I was seeing teenagers walking around with no coats on when we had
Just
literally
sitting
the
there like, put a
coldest
coat on.
temperatures ever. Oh, and
I
this is
mean,
not something where I was like someone who, as a high schooler, was doing that. I have always been cold and always like been in a parka. So,
yes, she has.
but yeah, I I am baffled hearing the way that the other characters talk to Bree because it's
It's
weird.
she constantly has to fight to just have a voice at the table
Mhm.
when like she is the voice. Like that's the thing
Yeah,
is she knows
if
that if this were Nick, no one would be treating
no
him
one would
like
question,
this.
it would be there would be no story because it's like
Yeah.
he would immediately he would say, well, we should do this, and everyone would say, okay, and there would be none of these divisions, none of these branch offs, none of these plots to get rid of her
Hmm.
or kill him, because everyone would just be totally accepting.
Yep.
There would be no issue at all, and it's it's so frustrating when it's someone like Bree who is actually, I think she's so much smarter and more caring than Nick from what we know,
Yes.
and the way that she's treated so poorly when
Well,
she's trying the most.
I can we talk about Nick for a second because Nick
Sure.
is someone who we
He's
don't
not in
really
this book
get.
very much.
I mean, it's officially been way longer, but they still love each other because, of course,
But
they do.
they're in the love.
I
It's like
guess,
love is
but
blind love.
she, I, I don't quite get Nick at all. Like,
Mm-mm.
because he is someone who everyone keeps telling you is so amazing and so selfless. But
But
like
he's
at
not.
every juncture, he picks himself over everyone else.
He ran
He
away
he ran
after
away
this
when he
situation.
knew that like he knew that Cell is in pain without him. Like Cell
Hmm.
is in danger of losing himself, and he still couldn't do what he needed to do. And like I did like in the last book where he was like, "Look, I kind of was just walking away. In theory, I never thought I would be Arthur, so like I got to, but I can't do that. Like that's
Hmm.
not okay." So great on him for admitting that. But like there's just certain things about Nick where I'm like, no, you kind of suck. Like, you're not good. You're not
Here's the
helping.
thing,
Like,
Anna.
what are you talking about?
This is the nice white guy thing where it's like
Yeah.
they don't have to be that great, but everyone's like, wow, what a great guy.
You're
It's
so
like
good. And it's like,
all he does is
how?
smile. Like what? What?
It just doesn't make sense to me. And I don't like it. Like, I just really don't like him. I have
You're
huge
absolutely
issues
right.
with
And
him.
there's no way in my mind that I can understand why Bree is still interested, because
Right.
even though Cell has done so many sucky things, she and Cell have so much more chemistry.
Well, it's because they're hot for each other. Like,
And
also,
also they've
young
been
adult
around each
books.
other more than 10 seconds,
Young
but
adults kill me. Young adult books kill me because obviously, like, this is not any flag to Tracy Deonn. I love Tracy Deonn's
mhm,
books. Like, these are amazing. But there's just some books where you're reading them, and as an adult, I'm like, you guys are just horny teenagers. That's all
yeah.
this is. Like, you are horny teenagers who are close to kissing. So you are
Mhm.
convinced that that is true love. And it's
Yeah.
just wanting to kiss each other.
You
And
just
that's
want to kiss.
okay.
That's fine.
You just want to kiss. You're just, and as an adult, I'm like, that's fine. Just go do that, but then don't date each other. It
And you know
seems
what?
like
I
a
will say
mistake.
maybe we have some younger people listening to this episode. I don't want to like constantly be a downer about like
No.
young adults saying that they're in love or this or that, because
Oh
Hannah,
no,
you and
that's
I have both
sorry.
been in situations where I'm just throwing this out
No,
as a
no, no,
disclaimer.
no.
I agree with what you just said.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing this out as a disclaimer because we're not trying to diminish love that young adults have. And your perception of love, I think you and I both would agree, your perception of love and what love is changes as you grow, as you're
Very
in more
much so.
relationships, and as you experience more things in life. So for us, we are maybe more so looking at this through the lens of ourselves as
Yes.
teenagers and thinking, Laura, Hannah, you weren't in love with that high school boy. Like,
You
no,
just wanted to kiss him
you
and
just wanted to kiss him.
you were putting him on a pedestal because that's where you thought he belonged. And
Yes.
that's fine. And like,
And at that
yes.
time, that seems that that is, it doesn't seem,
Yes.
it is love for you
Yes.
at that time. So there's no diminishing of that. That's not what we're saying. But I think I do agree with what you said, that it's just like, okay, really?
You guys can just kiss and not have to
Yeah,
date. It's okay.
it
And
doesn't have to be like, this is the person I'm with for the end of till the end of time. Like,
like, and there's just so
it's
many
okay to just kiss someone.
moments where, like, obviously Nick went through a horrible trauma. To find out that your mom had her entire life with
Hmm.
you erased is one of the most horrifying experiences you could
Hmm.
possibly have. But at the same time, they almost like want it to be like Nick doesn't think it's that big of a deal anymore. He's totally fine and adjusted. And it's like, no,
No.
he's not. He's the worst out of all of them. It's just he seems kind of okay, and he's over in the corner
Yeah.
with the crazy Merlin
He's
and
got
his dad.
daddy issues, so we can pretend like the mommy issues aren't that bad. And it's like, no.
Right. And so it's a very interesting book when it comes to Nick, because obviously we don't really care that much about him. But
Hmm.
every time I see him, I'm like, does no one see all the red flag? Like, he ran away from a person who specifically needs him to survive. Like, he's an inherently
But
selfish
he's
person.
terrible to Sel when they're together. The
Yes.
way that Sel mentions like things from their past, how Nick would purposely use their connection as like a weapon against him, like that
Right.
is awful.
And
Why do we like him?
because he's white and he's
Because he
blonde.
smiles.
Yeah. And he makes Bree feel giddy inside. But they have the most boring and like, I don't know. I guess
There's
I've
nothing to his
always
personality,
there's
honestly.
nothing to his personality. And I guess it is always good to teach people sometimes that like, hey, you should also want to date the guy who just makes you feel nice. But
Yeah,
they just
but
but also make sure that he's not a horrible, like
not
selfish person. He's
be sure
very
to check the way that he's
self-involved.
treating other people here,
Right.
because
Like,
he's treating those that are supposedly very close to him not the greatest. And I think it
no.
could almost be argued that the people within the order that he's supposed to be leading and be really close to, that he ditched because he was just like, no, not doing that. Like,
Right.
I'm not saying that he should have been forced into that order. There's a lot of issues with that as well. But for him to claim that he cares so much about them and them to just immediately accept him back in is a little rough for me too, when it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but isn't that pretty rude and disrespectful of the rest of you for him to just pop in and out and
Right.
one minute be like, want nothing to do with you all, and the
Mm-hmm.
next minute be like, I'm back and I'm king. Like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't like this character.
I don't like him either. And I don't like Cell either.
Cell is, in my mind, much more compatible with Brie, but it's like you said, because there is tension, sexual tension. And I think
Yes.
that's probably the biggest thing. But they are also, because they're spending more time together. This is the book where Cell becomes a love interest, an
Yes.
option, because they're spending more time together. And I think that they are trauma bonding. So they, which is not great, but
They're
they
the
have a lot
most
of,
trauma bonding.
oh
Like,
my
that's
gosh,
all
they
they're
have a
doing.
lot of shared experiences that have been awful. And then they also have a lot of past experiences that are similar and connected, and the
So
worst types of commiseration.
it's so bad too because like there are certain books where I believe that off screen, off page, they're having conversations with each other. They're discussing things they like. in this book,
You have more belief than me.
but it's not this book. Like this
Oh,
book, I don't
okay.
believe that's happening. Like there are
Yeah,
certain books I'll read where I'm like, oh, okay, I bet they're building a relationship off
sure.
page. This book, I think they only speak to each other when it's about the order or being horny for one another. And then they
Yes.
just never speak again. Like I'm pretty
You
sure
look
if
devourable. 10
yes,
hours
if
later.
Bree was like, "Oh yeah, I'm on my like third watch of like Living Single or Friends," he would be like, "You watch TV?"
Yeah.
Like,
What?
Sel gives the energy of someone who's like, "I just don't own a TV because I'm just that artistic," and
Yeah.
it's like, no, you're just kind of boring. Like, what are
And
you
I wouldn't even
doing?
say that I think he would just be contradictory just for
Yes,
to be contradictory. I don't even know if it's something where it's like TV has to be the example. I think you could bring up anything and he would be like, no. Like
no,
you could make it art. And he'd be like,
right.
art is a waste of time. You should be out training. And it's okay, cool. You should be
Yeah.
learning about history.
You
Like,
should be thinking
okay.
about all the people you may murder, but if you left the doors of this house, like, what are you talking about? Like,
You should be looking into your
so
own genealogy. We could have had this figured out a
and Bree's
long
like,
time
look,
ago,
I
Bree.
just wanted to watch some Queer Eye today. Like,
Yeah,
could we not just watch Queer Eye together?
you're not allowed to relax when you're the scion of Arthur.
And that is like,
Constantly on edge.
there are certain parts of this book where I'm always like, well, when are they watching TV? When are they doing that? Like, at least Bree went on some dates with Nick. It just feels like
Hmm.
she and Sel she runs on his back a lot.
I mean, this is a very much like Twilight relationship because he's
Right.
very much the broody, like, say it, say what I am.
Say what I am.
And she's like,
I'm Merlin.
But yeah,
It is
and
ice
this I
cold.
will say, like, they're on a road trip and everything is so fast paced in this,
Yes.
but it so there might not be as much behind the scenes things going on. I think you were right that we're getting everything on the page that's happening because I don't think there's very much to these relationships between her and these love interests. But
And that's
yeah,
the thing, like I do appreciate her and Alice's relationship because like
oh, they're great.
I feel like Tracy Deonn built a very effective friendship where like they talk about things like hair and do hair together and do things like self-care together and they really like decompress and they are each other's safe space, which is amazing. And I'm glad that we get to see like such a strong female friendship on the page. I just wish like some of that real estate was also given to like the love interest where it's like let's
But that
show that they
relationship
like
is
each other.
easier to buy into
Hmm.
and accept as a reader because you're given some of the foundation, some of the
Yes.
past of them and like how they have some history together. You're
Right.
given that as a reader where these other relationships, it's so tricky to believe that they're
Hmm.
close because
They were
as
together for a week and then they're like
via our
soulmates
experience,
in
it's like,
love.
yeah, it's like you barely know each other. Uh,
Right.
I don't know that I would trust somebody that I've known that amount of time. I don't know. I would have freaked out if I was like almost gutted in the forest and I had to rely on this man to keep me together. Like, oh, barely
This
know you.
man who probably doesn't believe in TVs. Like,
He's told me a million times how he tried to kill me, and I'm supposed to rely on him to keep me safe. Okay.
okay, yeah, and like that, or Valak, who's a million years old and hitting on a 16
Yep.
year old. Like, it's just very yikes sometimes. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't, I get where you're saying, like, oh, well, like Sel and Bree make more sense because they have more chemistry. And I'm like, yeah,
Hmm.
technically,
But
but it's
there's
also
not.
just
Here's my thing.
because, yeah,
There's
like
not. What is there to work with here? That's why I'm like they make more sense. But the bar is in
in hell, like
the
yeah,
it's below the ground. The bar is set
yeah.
so low in terms of like chemistry. That's what and like who is a good match. So again, best case scenario is she ends up single. But
Right.
but I don't understand the continue push for Nick.
I don't know. Yeah. It's a weird thing, and I think a lot of it
Hmm.
comes down to the need to like have the Arthur uh Lancelot
Yeah.
discussion of like are we close because we actually have feelings for one another or is it like some weird bond?
Hmm.
Um, and I like that discussion, but I feel like it doesn't happen very much. Like it's always
Yeah.
kind of off center. So I don't know.
Alice was great in this book.
I love Alice. She's the greatest. She's
Hmm.
so supportive. She's so wonderful. Why are they so good at building friendships that they're
Hmm.
not great at building love interests? But um I did want to talk. I'm trying to think about all the things that we haven't gone over yet because I feel like I'm like, oh, we've talked a
It was
ton about the
interesting
love interest.
how was it the was it a liege that sold her out to a demon because he was like approaching abatement?
Yes, that was an interesting. I
That was an
really,
interesting plot thing that happened.
yes, and I'm really digging the discussion again of like how it affects people to be tied to an ancestor and how
Hmm.
that is deeply painful and
And to be
rooted.
tied to another person that's not an
Hmm.
ancestor and
Yes.
to go through so many traumatic things and then lose them.
And then be expected to like die early on in
Hmm.
life. And it almost, I think it's interesting because I think it's coming from like the older people who are about to die, or they're like, look, we live for ourselves, where they're like, we have a connection to ourselves. But like, when does that become useless? And when do you feel like your life meant nothing? Because all
Hmm.
you're doing is, it is a cycle. Like, this is all
Hmm.
cycling through itself. And that goes back to like some things we've discussed with other books like Wheel of Time, where it's like, well, what happens when someone wants to break that cycle? Like, is
Yeah.
that inherently evil or not?
Hmm.
Because that's what that guy wanted to do. Like,
Yeah.
yes, he did it wrong because he went after a human being
Hmm.
who deserves their life. But at the same time,
Where it's
he's
like
like,
the
I just,
intention
mm-hmm,
was maybe not necessarily the worst, but
mm-hmm,
the way that you went about that intention was bad.
right. So I think that that's always interesting to see where you're like, oh, that was a very
Hmm.
unique character that we didn't get to see very often. And I'm glad we
Hmm.
did get to see that in this book, where like you're getting a few more lieges or people who have like already gone through it and seeing how they kind of come out on the other
Yeah.
end and how it's unique for this specific group of people too, because there seems to be a lot more infighting, a
Hmm.
lot more distrust, and like what brings that on and how it goes, into this is very interesting.
How did you feel about the early portions of the book before Bree was rescued?
I mean,
Pretty
it's very
sickening.
upsetting. Yeah, it's incredibly sickening, and just like the way they talk about her and the way they talk
Hmm.
to her, and like it's you can
She's treated
tell,
as less than a person.
right. And you can tell with the three people who are like in charge of everything,
Hmm.
just like how much power corrupts when it's
Yeah.
gone on for this long. And it we had seeds of it in the first book with Nick's dad, where he's like, look, we just need the power, we need to keep the power, and that's all that matters. And that's how these people are acting, where it's like,
Hmm.
well, we know best because we've been in charge for so long. You guys are just kids, even though we're supposed to respect you. Like, you can tell they don't respect her.
Hmm.
They don't respect any of these children. They just think they're supposed to work for them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree.
But what did you
Yeah.
think?
I mean, I completely agree with that. I think that it is just it the whole relationship between now that you mention it, like the way that the adults in this are involved and quote unquote meddling is strange and
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about it honestly because in a way it almost seems like a situation where it's like why are you involved? You know what I mean? Where
Right.
it's like you don't seem to be affected by this. Maybe this is something that you should step back from because your method of teaching is not helpful here. And it seems like these weird societies and everything that have developed through this are very toxic and I don't know how I feel about this one the more that I think about like the adults and the way that they are essentially corrupting these children and
Right.
doing terrible, terrible things to them. It's very concerning and it just makes me question like why what do they get out of this beyond preservation of the order and keeping things a certain way? Like, what is their end goal? What do they want and get out of this? Because it doesn't necessarily make sense to me at this point why they care so much about preserving the order.
Well, so I think it comes down to like, obviously, there are some, overlaps with things like college education. Like, this was set on a college
Absolutely.
education, and a lot of this, like, being born into it, being called to it, having vassals who have these lineage. So I think that people want to remain in power because they affect politicians, they affect people on campus, they affect people in power, and they get respect through that. And then it's that weird thing of like, if you have like a board of regents for a college, there's a certain level of like, well, you aren't what makes the school prestigious. The students are what makes the school prestigious. But you are the decision maker at the school. So you are important to it and you help make sure that your students are shown in the right way. So I think that
I
that's their
also think
role.
there's just like a weird thing that some people have about like I think most people are like develop a certain level of concern for things that they care about and
Yes.
seeing how they are taken care of like for generations and after they are gone. But the way that people attach themselves to things like this, where it's like I don't get why this society is something that needs to be preserved in this specific way and why you're trying to manipulate this long after so that it stays this way long after you're gone. Like, how does that benefit you besides just keeping the people that you hate out of positions of power or positions where they can improve upon themselves or do anything? Like,
Yeah.
it's privileged people just want to continue to remain in a privileged space and
Yep.
keep other people out. And
Yeah.
it's difficult to understand why some people are like that. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's where I'm coming from, where it's just like, especially like I can understand people in like our current time being concerned about like climate change and wanting to
Yeah.
preserve the earth for their
Right.
children or their grandchildren. That makes total sense to me. The preservation of a weird random college society and
Mm-hmm.
keeping the rules a certain way and keeping these people out and only these people in and that these things have to happen. Zero understanding on my part.
I don't know. I think it's one of the dumbest things. Well, it's the belief that like either you're special
Mhm.
or that you're not special enough without having kept those people out. Like it's like one of those things where it's
Or
like,
it's just a thing where it's like, if we don't care about this, did it mean anything? And
right.
it's like, but it doesn't mean anything.
It
It's a
doesn't.
weird random club.
Right. I'm like, who cares? You're out of the club now. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't, it's just, it's very strange, but I don't know.
Yeah, I have so many thoughts that are like blossoming just in regards to the adults involved in this that I don't necessarily know how to place them, but
I
it
mean, they're just a
they're
bunch of
weird and
mean girls
complicated
and well,
and
like again, it's kind of like a sorority or fraternity. It's a secret
Mhm.
club where you have adults there who care so much. Like, do you remember being in our sorority and how much the adults cared? Like
And
cared
here's the thing, Hannah,
so much.
I could not understand at that time why they cared so much. Now I have been out of college for quite 10 years. I have
Hmm.
been out of college. I do not care what goes on at that sorority. And I do not want to be one of the people that is like trying to make decisions about that place. Like, no, I'm
Right.
not
Like
affected by the things that happen there. I, it's not my place to be like, this should happen or that should happen. Like, no.
yeah, it's a very weird belief of like, well, again, I think you're right. You kind of hit the nail on the head where you're like, if I don't work at this, did it not mean anything? And it's like
Yeah.
it could have meant something when you were in college, but why does it
It's
mean
not to say
something
that it
now?
doesn't mean something
Yeah.
in terms of like your journey in life or your personal like experience there, but in terms of like the grand scheme of your life, do you have to make sure that it's always an important part of your life? Like, don't you grow as a person and move on,
Right.
and other things kind of become like take that spot of being in a sorority? Like, or this order in this book, like, okay.
It's just so strange how much they care. Well, I mean, I think they care because like it's a place of power. Like the
Hmm.
people who
And
are
that's
regents,
very
they're
much
in
a thing
power.
too in this
Uh,
book, where it's like the power
hmm.
that has to be controlled and has to be given to specific people that they trust
Right.
to handle it the way that they want it to be handled.
How
And that's why they don't want Bree to be in this situation, because she is not trusted. They don't know about her, and also racist. So
how did you feel about Tor in this book?
awful. I mean, we don't
Okay.
get a ton of her,
Right.
but
It was a little bit of a weird choice on my thought process because it was just weird to have like only one racism the person in
Mhm.
the Legendborn group. It seems like everyone else is pretty chill about
But
Brie,
the
and I
way
wanted
that
to be
everybody
like,
else just kind of bandwagons with her, though,
yeah,
is saying to me that they agree.
yeah.
You know
But
what I
like
mean?
a lot
Where
of
it's like,
times we're supposed to
if you're not saying
believe,
you something to her, don't you agree?
right? And that's kind of, I guess that's true, where they like none of them really acted,
They go
but it
along with her.
yeah, but like, but then they're like, but we knew all along, and we decided to knock you out of it and align ourselves with the line of more gain. And I was just kind of like, well, that's weird that like we only have one racism, the person out of all the Legendborn who's like currently not the greatest, and everyone else is just pretty chill. I did
I
like,
would
yeah,
I would
go.
just venture to say that they're not all pretty chill. That
Okay,
maybe it's a cop out. Like, because I think if they were actually more okay with Bree, wouldn't they have said something to Tor earlier?
right,
I
and that's
don't buy
fair.
it.
And hopefully that, well, I mean, not hopefully, because like Bree's dealt with enough racism, but it's just
Hmm.
weird to have like a bunch of group of white kids, and it's like, oh yeah,
Hmm.
they're all fine except for like the one Aryan race looking girl over there,
Just that one
just
that's
that one blonde. Like I was like, well, that doesn't feel right. Like, but
hmm.
I I did like that Tor is someone who has a biracial girlfriend and still harbors those things. Because I
I think that
think
that's something that so many people in the real
mhm,
in our real world are very much unable to recognize,
yep.
that they care for people who
Hmm.
are a different race than themselves, and they are continually doing racist actions.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. I thought that that was a pretty astute way to like
Hmm.
move
To
them
show
where
that.
yes. Because like Sarah, oh God, I can't believe I can call her that colloquially. Sarah, like knows she knows her girlfriend is racist and loves her and like knows she can't trust her. And she is a person who is biracial. She just
Hmm.
passes as white. So she is someone
Hmm.
who can like be palatable to people. And that has to, that's very interesting to have that person have like the girlfriend who's an
It's
issue.
also interesting from the standpoint of like a lot of people who are white passing, I think, do not associate in their minds with being biracial, because they want to have all the white privilege benefits. So
And
I
that's
think
not
it's
every
interesting.
biracial
That's not
person, but
everybody. No,
some
I
biracial people. Yeah.
some biracial people are like that, especially I'm thinking of white passing people,
Yes.
where a lot of times they're not as willing to mention that,
Hmm.
like Sarah would there, because
Yeah.
they're gonna be like, oh no, like everything's totally fine. Like I totally am cool with the way that this is happening, and like, oh, okay.
Right.
And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to blanket statement
Oh no, no,
biracial people. That's not what
no.
that's not what I'm saying.
No, I didn't
But
think you were. Just
I just have
yeah.
noticed that there are some biracial people who are white passing that are unwilling to acknowledge
Their
certain
own
things,
privilege and like
because
other things.
yes, their
Yes.
own privilege.
It's interesting, especially when like Sarah is someone who tries to like align herself with Brie, but then continues to date her girlfriend even though she knows she can't be trusted. and
Hmm.
like doesn't call her out on it until the very end. And it was an interesting choice that I just thought was very effective for
Yeah,
the
good
overall
point.
plot. Um, yeah, and then the rest of them are just kind of like there. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you another Legendborn's name other than
No.
Russ, who has passed away, and Felicity Flick. Um,
Yeah. What did
but
you think of Valak? Or do you have any more thoughts on Valak besides that he's I was very bothered by him creeping on Brie. Like, you're 200. Please
I,
don't.
yeah, I was really bothered by that. Why was he doing that? They could have just not made him do that and it would have been fine. Like I
Here's
didn't
the thing,
need
YA
that.
novels do this a little too much where we're
Right.
supposed to just kind of get over somebody who's that old hitting on a 16-year-old and it's like no,
But he
no,
looks
no.
16, so
That's
he's
not
fine.
no,
Like,
no. No,
yeah,
no.
that's not a thing. Don't do that. Like, no, thank you. And that's
Mm-mm.
kind of I didn't need him. I really liked him as a character outside of the weird, like, look, I'm sexually attracted to
Yes.
you, so I'm just gonna be upfront about it. I may be hundreds of years old,
Hmm.
but I am still in a teenage body. Um, I thought he was an interesting character when it came to like what it means to be good, how that doesn't have to look like what everyone thinks good versus evil is, especially when he seems to be a foil to Cell, where Cell
Hmm.
is very black and white, either you are good or bad, which also shows how much of a disservice it is to buy into the rules of society because Cell is very black and white and very literal and therefore has a lot of self-hatred because he is not a black
Hmm.
or white person or character. And so it's very interesting. It's kind of like the discussion of how like patriarchy fails men just as much as it fails
Hmm.
other people. It's just like more harmful to other people. Um but like more actively harmful, sorry. But so it's like, yeah, Cell is actively being betrayed by the system that he buys into the most. And you see Valak, who is like, I do good things, I just don't do them in the way that you would agree with them. And it's like, no, that's still a very effective person to have and to understand.
Yeah, completely agree. I also think too, just like on a more basic level, that it's an interesting like plot choice to
Yeah.
have Valak and his history being brought into this and how the demons and the deals
Mhm.
come into this. I thought that was a unique thing. And I really just kind of liked the whole bar
I really
situation. I
liked
thought that was a
that.
lot of fun. And I like that they got to like get dressed up and go into this bar and that it was
Order
kind of
two beers.
yeah, like I'm trying to think of like what movie I'm picturing where they like go into this like dark bar and it's actually I'm thinking of Community maybe
Oh,
where,
maybe.
where they go into the cafeteria and it's like a lounge type thing that they've made that they're like passing chicken tenders through. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm picturing this was where they like get all dressed up and they go to this dark bar and there's all these different people that are meeting up and everything. But then it quickly became like a weird chanting Jerry Springer situation, which was strange. But
Kill him.
yeah,
Like, why?
but yeah, I thought that was really an interesting plot choice and a
Yeah.
good addition, really. And I like the way that it tied into how because we learn about how these deals are made and then how Bree came to be bloodmarked. So
Yeah. I really liked that. I thought it was
good
very
choice.
interesting. I really liked the bar scene.
Hmm.
Outside of the Jerry Springer
Yeah,
kill him,
that was
kill
not
that
great.
one, I was
But
like, "Ah, we've gone too far."
no, no, that was too much.
They
But
broke all the rules. Um,
I also thought it was interesting too when Vera was addressed by Bree and how there was definitely a dichotomy of how they felt in regards to what that promise may
right.
did for them and how Bree kind of considered it a curse and how Vera considered it a way to save their
Mm,
bloodline.
yeah.
And it was very interesting the back and forth between the two of them and how Vera kind of shut it down. It was just like, no, you don't get it. So I really like that section as well.
I think it's a really good look at generational trauma
Hmm.
and like how some people do something to survive and then they get resentful when the people after them are like, but it did cause harm. Like
But it was
you're,
a problem for us also.
yes. And it's like this resentment of like, don't you understand the position I was put in? Don't you
Mhm.
understand? Like it's the
Turning
crazy
red.
ex. I was gonna say the crazy ex-girlfriend after everything I did for you that
Oh
you didn't
yeah.
ask for.
After
Like after
everything
things
I
I
did
did
for
for
you
you
that
that
you
you
didn't
didn't
ask
ask
for.
for.
Paula, great.
Greg's not the only one you're
Screwing.
screwing.
I love it.
But I do think that there is that, like, yes, turning red, like
Mhm.
Paula and crazy ex-girlfriend, like, I did so much for you. Can't you just understand and be grateful? And the other person is like, no, because like you did cause me harm and
Mhm.
like look at what you've done to us. And it's like, how dare you say that?
Mhm.
And I do think that like that is something I think a lot of society has going on for right now, are people being like, how dare you do this to us? And then how
Yeah.
dare you judge my decisions, who I made as a person? And we're losing track of like there's personhood on both sides of those
Mhm.
types of conversations. Uh, but like it was interesting to see Vera and Bree have that animosity towards themselves where it's like you just don't understand what I went through. And Bria's like, well, I can understand that, like, I will never understand that. And I can understand that you did harm us. And there's like that lack of conversation, which I thought was very
Mhm.
astute and very interesting. So thank you for bringing it up. Um, and I also think that that's interesting when compared to Arthur
Yeah.
and Bree walking away and not swearing herself,
Mhm.
saying she would not raise herself up for the darkness. She was walking away from this
Mhm.
and that rejection of societal needs and like what that means for her. And I think that that's a very interesting look when you're looking at her conversations with Arthur, where he feels entitled to her,
Mhm.
and Vera, who is upset because there is a lack of understanding.
She thinks that there was a huge sacrifice made for her.
Hmm. And like with Arthur, it's like, how dare you deny this? And when she burns the root, Vera's like, you don't know what you need to survive. We can
You don't
help you.
know all
Yes.
that I've done.
Hmm. And so it's interesting. But
Absolutely. How'd you
okay.
feel about Erebus there at the end?
I mean, I honestly, so bad. A lot of times I'm like, which one was Erebus? Like,
Not gonna lie, this book I never know what to expect. So I was waiting for you to be like, I kind of guessed this, and I was gonna be like, maybe I don't know.
I mean, he made the most sense, but I also was like, whatever.
It could have went any
It could
direction.
have been, yeah, you could have told me it was Kestra, and I would have been like,
Yeah,
sure enough.
she's
Like,
back. Called it. It's what's his name that we saw in Ashes that Alice was screaming about.
Patricia, what are you doing
You're
here?
supposed to be a therapist. You tricked me all along.
This is why you were such a bad therapist. I should have known. Um,
Oh,
I think I mostly
Patricia.
get confused with like what it means to be a regent versus a Merlin because they're like, of course he was
Mhm.
in the regents, and it's like, but he was a Merlin in the regents, so like
Yeah, I
it
don't
wasn't
understand that difference
inherently
either.
perfect.
There's a lot of things about these two books where I'm like, literally, this is difficult for me because I'm just going with the flow and I do not understand a lot of what's going on. Where I've said, I think in previous episodes, can someone please explain this to me? And I
So
have a lot of things in this room. Like, can someone please explain this to me?
so again, like different mages get oath to certain people, and then they
Mhm.
often like have higher powers, I guess. And so Erebus is oath to Kestra. And so that's who he's oath to. So
Okay.
yeah, I guess you can
I
get
still
oath.
don't get it.
I don't get it either. So someone add us and tell us that we're being stupid and tell
Tracy,
us
can you
that,
please send us an email and let us like explain
yeah.
this?
Um,
Thanks.
because yeah, it says like we have Aldrich who um
Oh yeah, I guess I could go on the wiki now because I'm
yeah.
there's no spoilers
He
at
is
this
with the
point.
rest of the council. He's part of the council as well. Um he is oathbound to Mage Seneschal of Constructs, which is Saren. So like each of them have their own oathed mage who's a Merlin. And so Erebus is the one who was with her. And I know he was the one who kind of like attacked them a couple different times.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Aldrich and Tacitus, who's also part of
Yes, I remember
they're
Tacitus.
the mean girls.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Now that you mentioned Oath, the next book is called Oathbound, is it not?
it's called Oathbound, yeah.
So that will be probably
Oh,
some kind
and
of connection there.
sorry, Tacitus is also the mage to Gabriel, so that's who his regent is. So Erebus is considered a regent because he's oath to a regent, and so they each have like, I guess, higher powers, or they just have more control,
Okay.
which is why the Shadow King was with him.
I thought he was the Shadow King.
He is the Shadow King. Sorry, just
Okay.
like why the Shadow King chose a mage who is tied to the
Okay.
regents is the position of power he would be in. But when she was like, of course it was someone in the regions, I was like, but he wasn't one of the main three. He was just one of their mages. And then I'm like, I
That's
guess it
when
doesn't
it's
matter.
that's me, somebody like, of course it was this, and me over, yeah, of course. I
I
totally,
totally
we
understood
we
that. Thank
all
you.
knew.
Yeah, we all knew. No, I just remember being like, okay, sure, he is the one that I saw the most. So like, yeah, I guess he would have to be it
I
because
still wouldn't have probably guessed that.
I mean, he had to be
He
someone.
sucked, but I wouldn't have.
He sucked.
There's so many people that were bad.
There were so many people who were bad, and so many people just, I mean, I guess at
It
least in
wouldn't have
this book,
surprised me if any of them came out like Tor saying, "I'm actually,
it was
I'm the Shadow King."
it was me, racism all along.
It's me. Hi, I'm the
I'm the
problem. It's
problem.
me.
Well, she is a blonde individual
Yep.
who has questionable.
Hey,
I'm
huh?
sure Tor once wore something that said feminism is the future, but she
Probably.
forgot that feminism includes people who are not all white. So,
Yeah.
you know, fun stuff. But yeah, I think this will be interesting. The next book is called Oathbound.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure we will talk more about it next week as in our season finale, because we'll get to
Mm-hmm.
do a little bit more of like, let's guess what happens next. Let's do
Yeah.
this. Let's do this. Because we haven't done that yet for many of our series. So yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else that you feel like we haven't covered?
I mean, just need to mention on air that Cell can turn into an owl, and we've yet to see that
Legendborn.
happen.
But we apparently we did because she was like, "Oh yeah,
I
I've seen
actually
him become an owl," and it's like, "Sure, you have, Bree."
wasn't there a point in this book, if I'm remembering right, where they like said he's flying through the forest or something like that when he was like checking stuff or whatever, putting up like boundaries. I don't know.
I don't know.
His security work was better in all forms.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Who
Someone
knows?
please look up the specific owl incidents.
How many owls? Let's see.
Thank you.
I'm on the wiki and I did the scientific thing of control effing owl. Um, Saul
Maybe I
arrives
just
in
need a
the
PDF of
Oh, so I
Bloodmarked.
guess it was literally in the first book it did happen. It says
Wow,
he
missed it.
arrives in the middle of the battle at the Cave of the Dragon. He has shapeshift into the eagle owl.
Okay.
Raz is holding Bree, threatening her if Nick doesn't take up Excalibur. So that was when he became an owl. And then in the
Well
next book,
then,
uh so yeah. Bet you didn't see
totally
that
missed
coming,
that.
Laura.
Totally missed that.
I didn't.
I mean, this time or the first time you read it?
I'm lying. I had no idea that
Okay.
happened. So no, thank you. Yeah,
Interesting.
so Cell can shapeshift into a huge eagle owl, which
Eagle
is
owl.
this an eagle owl. Say that five
That
times
means it's
fast.
probably really big.
He's probably really big. Like he's
I'm
probably
glad
the
you picked up on
biggest.
that. I'm glad I didn't waste that.
Also, can we talk about the fact that he's a fucking classics major?
Of course.
He is someone who is like, I just don't believe in owning televisions because Merlin didn't own a television. And everyone's like, we get it, Sel. You're a Merlin. You're sad about it. Thank
Also, that
you.
was medieval times. They didn't have them. So
I bet
he might
Merlin
have
would
liked the
have had
TV.
This is where I would put my TV if I had one.
That's another thing to think about, listeners. Like, just because people in the past didn't do these things, if they would have had access to them, they probably would have liked them,
Probably would
right?
have liked
Yeah.
them. So stop complaining about it, Sel. Stop being a classics major, you a-hole.
So
Everything
why?
about him is insufferable. All right. So everyone should join us next week for our special season finale of Cycling Through Legendborn.
Cycling.
Uh,
Wow.
and,
And then we're
and then we're in Indie Mission, bitches.
in Indie Mission.
We are reading Brian S. Glosmeyer's Before the Shattered Gates of Heaven.
Yes.
We will be doing a giveaway. I'm so sorry I haven't gotten that out yet. It may be out as we speak, but we will be doing a giveaway of a signed copy. He hasn't sent it to me yet, though, so we have time to do the giveaway. And
It has not arrived.
It has not arrived, but it will be coming. It is coming. We promise we will be giving away one signed copy of the book. And so everyone should join the giveaway and spread the word because we're really excited about reading this book. It's our first sci-fi indie. Whoop, whoop. So make sure you're following along for that because after that it is the year of
the Dresden.
The year of the Dresden. We're doing it. So make sure you
Talk
guys
about
are
other books that make me nervous.
Make sure you guys are rating, reviewing, and subscribing before we get into that because we may need the bonus 5 stars, guys.
Yeah, we might need some help. If
we may need some people to like us.
These Dresden Files people get mad.
We just don't know. We don't know what to expect. So be nice to us. And make sure you're following us over at OWWR Pod and then Our Pod on all the platforms, all the places. And if you are so inclined, please join us over on Patreon. We've had a recent dollar subscriber sign up. You can get $1. Could be just a little help and a little thank you for all the hard work. It goes towards good things like purchasing books for the giveaway and making sure that we are, up and running. And we have some great stuff going over on Patreon. This month, this February, we are posting a bonus episode if you are part of the $5 or $10 a month club about Laura and Hannah playing their first game of D&D ever.
Yes.
Led by Hannah's fiance. So if you're interested in that, you should be signing up for our Patreon for that.
Everyone should feel bad for Hannah's fiance right now.
And then our $10 a month, we should be doing a deep dive in the next couple days into the new popcorn box of Dune.
The Dune popcorn bucket.
The Dune popcorn bucket. So everyone get excited for a quick mini-sode on that because
you don't want to miss it.
You don't want to miss it. So make sure you're signing up for everything or, like I said, rating, reviewing, and subscribing.
We appreciate everybody listening and sharing if you're able. It means a lot. And we really appreciate you being here right now listening. And if you want to join us over on Discord too and chat some more, that'd be great.
Too. So do all of those things. And we can't wait to talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.